Ford batteries.
Electron storage containment units.
Storage containment units. Check it.
Electron containment units.
That's it.
Check it.
Specific here.
We are live.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
I didn't
We're
pull
back.
up the stream on YouTube yet.
It's like
Pop out chat.
How do you
like
do that? I don't know how
nothing
to
changed.
Oh, just open up YouTube and then go to Power Stroke Tech Talk and find the live stream that we're in. And
Pop
then
out.
what I do is I open the live and I minimize both.
Pop
screens.
out.
I can see what?
Pop
All
out.
right.
What up, Brian?
What am I hearing? I keep hearing something.
I don't know.
Hey, Rod, are you making sound effects?
No.
Oh, it's weird. Okay.
Oh,
Anyways, just
there we are.
open up YouTube and then go to Power Stroke Tech Talk.
Yeah,
and
I'm in
find
there.
the live stream that we're in. And then
Pop out.
just- what I do is I open the live.
It's got my
and I
real name in
minimize
there.
both
Pop out.
It's got my whole real
Oh,
name.
somebody's got to mute Pop the. What up, Brian?
What am I hearing? I keep hearing something.
The back play.
Yeah, I'm hearing. Hey,
Yeah, I
Rod, are
think
you
that's-
making sound effects?
That's Eric. I think that's Eric's YouTube. If you got
Oh,
if you,
yeah. Just
Oh,
open
there
up,
we
mute
are.
it. You gotta mute
Open
YouTube and then go to Power Stroke Tech Talk.
Yeah,
and
I'm in
find
there.
the live stream that we're in. And
Pop
then
out.
just-
It's
what I do is I open the
It's
live.
got my
and I
real name in
minimize
there.
both.
Pop out.
got
You
my
got
name.
Oh, dude,
that's
we're
crazy.
entering like the we're
Right.
entering
What am I
like
hearing?
another universe.
The back play.
How do I?
Yeah, I'm hearing.
just
Eric,
I
are
think
you
that's,
making sound effects?
that's Eric. I think that's Eric's YouTube. If you got if you,
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
good.
yeah.
I see what to do now. Hold
And
on.
then go to Power.
There you go.
There we go.
Oh,
He
awesome.
did
I'm
it.
gonna do it
All
now.
right. I'm new at this. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm not gonna say anything right
Oh,
now.
you can throw me under the bus, man.
No, you're good, bro.
Actually, that was kind of fun. I'm gonna do it now. Hang on, let me.
no, don't do it.
Hello,
Don't do
hello,
it.
hello,
Don't do
hello,
it.
hello. Twilight Zone for Rizzo. Welcome back, everybody. We got a newcomer to the show. He's going to be hanging out with us. He's got some cool cars behind him, and we're going to talk about his channel and some other stuff we got going on. Ford Boss has got some mysterious oil and a very golden beard tonight. And DS has no excuse not to fall asleep because he is moving tons of the white stuff, and I'm not talking El Chapo. He is moving snow. We got like 8 inches, and it is wet and heavy, and is no fun. And he's doing it in none other than his 6.2 right now. I don't know. He got the 7.3 with
No,
the
I'm
other
in the
crew?
7.3.
Oh, he's in the 7.3. Okay, I thought he was talking about the other one he was in earlier. Yeah, hey, it's the I Do Cars dude. Yeah.
There it
Himney, what up? What up?
Yes,
We're gonna talk 2023. I have some new info, I guess. I don't know if you guys saw the Facebook post. Dealer in Western Michigan actually has one currently for sale. I think my coworker said it was like
6.8. It's a 6.8 at
6.8,
61,000.
61,000. But I found through some sleuthing, I found the battery part number, and they are different for 2023. They are full AGMs, and right now I'm waiting for some part pricing, and I think I'm gonna cop a couple of them just so that I can get rid of the lead acid. I don't want to hear from Ford that these batteries are supposed to leak on top. There is not supposed to be any acid. If you had some venting, yeah, these are not venting. When I have a stalagmite growing from the positive cable on trucks because of the acid that's leaking out of the battery, that's not normal.
That's the
And
problem.
to do away with that, I want to check out these new batteries, and they are the same group, so it's going to be the same size, same configuration. It's going to be cool. I want to see one of these in freaking person, like I've said before, not moving on the road. I want to see under the hood. Who's cashing out the top tech rewards? Speaking of which,
I got mine on. I mean, I already submitted for mine. Mine's on the way.
Dang. Well, apparently I got an email in January of last year and apparently didn't complete the registration until November. And I lost out on all those months.
Dang.
So I only got like a couple $100. I'm just like, oh,
I think I ended up getting like 2,200 or something.
yeah, that's what my coworker got. Man.
Some of those guys that were going to a lot of classes that kept going to all the
Yep.
40 classes and stuff. Some of them got close to $3,000.
Man. Yeah. Well, I missed out. It is what it is. So let's see here. What do we got
What's
going
the
on?
do you know off the top of your head what are the specs for that 6A? Cody, do you, because you're usually the one that figures that stuff out.
I have not.
Not
Well,
even
the
looked at-
workshop manual is not out, but we do have access, just trickled out the wiring diagram. My weird high idle thing stopped when I got home. Ford
You see,
Asset Tech.
Do you see did Krautzer send you the picture of his Banks rear diff cover?
No, I haven't talked to him.
Dude, that thing is sweet. I love the install. That Banks rear diff cover, and that thing is just
I like the sight glass and where
The
you
sight-
fill all the way at the top. Like, dude,
Yeah.
come on, that's
that was
freaking genius.
cool. And then when I did the front steering stabilizer, the HD single stabilizer for that truck, the O-ring started to come out around the pivot point around the Fox HD stabilizer.
Mhm.
So I took my plastic trim tool and I tucked the O-ring back in, and then he left and came back. And when he came back, it was still in. It never popped back out again. So that was good. And then I ended up doing the rear power stop calipers and rotors and the extreme, like the HD pads.
Yeah.
And then the front, I was able to get the power stop rotors and pads and stuff on there, but not the calipers because the calipers were the wrong ones.
Oh, they were.
Yeah. So basically the story is he waited for these things for forever, and then they finally show up. They show up in a plain box with no part numbers on it, and each one of the calipers came out of a box with no part numbers on it. And then I get the caliper and I mount it up on the truck, and I'm like, dude, this thing's like almost 3.5, 4 inches away from the bowl holes lining up. This ain't the right caliper assembly for this truck. So he leaves at that point, and he's gone for like the entire time it takes me to go from the front left, front right, back left, as I'm working my way around doing this upgrade. And I get all the way to the last one and almost finished with it. And then he finally gets off the phone and he's like, dude, man, they've been giving me the runaround. I called Power Stop up. Power Stop said that is the right invoice number for the part. But then I called up Jegs, and we're talking to Jegs about it. And Jegs is saying, you know, maybe there's a hiccup somewhere. Maybe it came from the warehouse. Or he's like, you know, I think Krauser was saying, who knows where it came from? Warehouse, drop ship, whatever. But the part showed up and there's no part numbers here. So I can't verify anything with you because there's nothing on the boxes. And they're not the right ones for it. And then they're grilling him instead of saying, hey, you know what, go ahead and send us those back. We'll get a new set out to you right away. Basically, I'm thinking to myself, how are you going to get a new set out to him when the ones that are supposed to be on here are on back order through the company that makes them? So you sent him just random calipers and brackets for the front of this truck with no part number, no nothing to appease. They're not even the right ones. And then he's like, who's going to pay this technician again to take this stuff back off when the right stuff comes in? Are you guys going to help with the labor? And Jack was like, no, we don't pay for labor. Well, you sent me the wrong parts and the guy's got the stuff apart. What am I supposed to do? And they're like, we'll send it back and we'll give you a $25 gift card. You mean, so me send it back and then pay for this guy to install them when they come in, you give me a $25 gift. They were more interested in asking 1,000 questions than just telling him, hey, look, give us the calipers and stuff back and we'll send you the right ones. They almost sounded like they didn't even believe that somebody was installing them was a professional. And they're like, customer service, man, anymore? Customer service is down just. sucks. Anyway,
That's the way it
Yeah.
is right now. That's just how
Yeah.
it is.
It's
With
across the board.
everything,
Take your point.
everything.
Yeah. All you got to do is be human, and then someone is amazed that you actually can. Yeah, I don't know. In my industry, if you offer somebody their money back without sending a bad part that I'm just going to throw away back, they're like, "Are you serious? Really?" But like they're so used to being like, "Oh no, you have to jump through 40 rings of fire just to get your $50 back or whatever it is."
And that's all he wanted, was for them to be like, you know what? These things may have happened, just go ahead and send us the calipers back and we'll get the right ones out to you. No big deal. Instead, they almost seemed like they were trying to investigate and be a detective to figure out if he's lying or not. And he's like, dude, I got them right here. I'm literally standing in the dealership at the technician's stall right now while he's putting them on the truck.
It won't work.
Yeah.
I'm not lying to you. I'm ready to send them back. I just wanted to talk to you guys to let you know I will be sending them back because they're not the correct ones. But instead, you've got me on the phone trying to make me out to be a criminal, and I'm not doing anything wrong.
That, and they could also be trying to do some R&D get some free R&D out of it.
Yeah.
Like, why doesn't it fit? Let's figure this out. What is that really from? That's not the customer's responsibility.
Real quick before we get off the topic of customer service, I do have to make mention of the most excellent customer service I've experienced in a decade, and it was with Banks Engineering, or it was Banks. I ordered an air mouse for my iDash thing, not a sponsored comment or anything, but I ordered an air mouse for the iDash to get like outside temperature and weather and stuff like that. And the one they sent me was just cold shorted. It didn't do anything. It actually took down the entire communication line that it was plugged into. And I called the guy up and I was like, hey, I plugged this air mouse in and it doesn't work. I told him, what the setup was. And he's like, okay, he sounds like you got it connected properly. And he goes, I'll just go ahead and send you another one right now. Let me know when it gets there. And then just send the old one back. And I'm like, that's it?
Yeah.
I mean, nice, friendly, no problem. And I was kind of taken back. I was like, wait, you don't need a picture of it not working, and you're not going to send me to the help department to make sure I hooked it up right? He's just like, here you go, here's another one. I couldn't believe it. And it showed up like 3 days later. Like they put it in the mailbox that day, and then poof, there it was. Couldn't believe it.
Can't beat that.
I mean, it's rare, but it's still out there. I mean, I like to think I provide good customer service. I'm pretty sure Eric does the same.
Absolutely.
Rich, I know you do. I think maybe the pendulum is going to swing soon.
I lose myself on my customer service because I want to make sure I'm the last one taken care of and they're the first ones taken care of, because I have no chance in succeeding if it's not for them. That repeat customer is the most important thing to me. And if that is not somebody's business model, they are wrong. The repeat customer is the only way that I will flourish and succeed and have that safety net to know that I'm treating them right and they're going to come back to me over and over again, and I build that relationship with them. That's all I care about, to be honest with you.
This brings up a good topic that Rain Man had covered on his other channel, and it's the customer service. And when we get when we feel we gave good customer service to our customer, we met our customer's expectations or got the situation, whatever the case was, it's handled, the customer's on the road, truck's making money. When you don't get that reciprocation and the next step is getting paid for your time, getting paid for your skill, getting paid for your knowledge, getting paid not because you're here for your job, it's because you completed a task. Not 10 seconds later does the middleman between the technician and the customer say, no, you're not getting paid. And it's those situations that can be hard to deal with, especially in our situations where we're paid flat rate or we're commissioned and we're not hourly, where this type scenario wouldn't take place or really matter. But Rich, when somebody tells you the people with the rotors or the calipers, you'll make it up on the next one. Explain that to me. So what are you going to rob Peter to pay Paul? And that dude's going to be left out? Or this customer's going to get charged double because you messed up?
Yeah.
Or they're just lying to you to get you to turn around and walk away. I mean, because
you're okay with that, right?
The problem with that moment is when you go,
No.
well, how are you going to make up for that?
No, I'm not, because I used to have a service manager, and it's the same scenario. His mom would show up at the dealership, and he'd say she needs brakes and rotors put on her van. Can you take care of that for me? I know you'll do a real good, clean job. It's my mother, and I'll knock it out for you real quick. And then, okay, how am I getting paid? Oh, you can. I'll hit you up on the next one or something like that, or whatever. Or on the next job, you can we'll put it on a used car as we put it in, or something like that. No. Why am I having to double work to get paid that initial amount of money when I should be paid for what I'm working for right now? I shouldn't have to do twice the amount of work for the pay on one job. And then that has to transfer to somebody else. So you're going to put that on a used car? I get it. Or you're going to put that on something else, and then somebody else has to pay more for what you didn't want to. I just don't understand this logic. It doesn't make sense.
I feel like we're almost, like I said, the advisor, people that hold that position, the middleman, right? Between the customer and the technician. So as a technician, what do? We present all of the investigative reports and analysis and the repair plan to the advisor.
Right.
I have zero issues with calling this customer, depending on who it is.
Right.
I'm not going to get into depth. Maybe I need to paraphrase everything that's wrong with it and put it into layman's terms, because they're shoemakers, and tell them their bill is going to be $20,000. What I don't like to happen is I give information to said individual, and they tell the customer a completely different thing.
Right.
Like, dude, that's not. Well, why would you tell the customer that?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, we're trying to sell this job to the customer, so we're counting on you, the middleman, to present this in a fashion that is going to, one, sell the job, answer the customer's questions, and sound like we know what we're talking about. You don't want to, well, we got this job. I think, I mean, how confident do you feel now spending $20,000?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I mean, I don't know. What kind of.
If it's a big job, I've been known to do this because I don't have a lot of confidence in service advisors sometimes. If it's a big job, and I know that it's in the best interest of the customer to get it done, I will walk up with my RO, all my paperwork, the estimate and everything else with the labor. I'll put it in front of them, and I'll say, call now while I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And when they call, I'll let them pick up the phone, talk to the customer. You let me talk to them and sell the job. You know, Mr. Johnson, I've got your truck in. Unfortunately, I did find that it did jump timing or whatever. And this is how I went about it in layman's terms to figure this out. And these are the minimum necessary components that need to be replaced to get this vehicle back on the road and going again for you. You know, and this is the overall price. Quit talking labor hours. Quit talking complete breakdown. You shoo them away that way. They don't need to know none of that. All they need to know is this is what it's going to take to fix it. This is the price it's going to be. Be very open and honest with them, straight to the point. Don't try to make all this small talk and all this other side chatter and stuff and trying to just straight, honest. This is what it's going to cost. be very confident, sell the job.
That's it.
And if you don't do this, this is what could happen. Or yeah, you know what? If you don't have the cash for it right now, you can get by a little bit longer. Just be very careful. And these are the situations. This is what I want you to look out for. Even if they decline the job, I still try to help them understand more about what could happen if they continue to use the vehicle in this condition, worst case scenario and best case scenario. But the service advisors, a lot of them just don't have the ability to do that. They say a lot of stuff that's not even true, or they'll try to sell things sometimes that don't even need to be sold. No, I want to retain this customer. I want to fix what's wrong. I don't want to throw all this other stuff in there so you push them out the door and they never come back. I'm interested in only fixing what's wrong, but I want you to sell it. Be confident when you do it. Don't do all that other
Don't be a
stuff.
cheesy salesman, though.
Right.
Okay. There's no need to be a cheesy salesman. Just like you said, straight to the point. What'd you bring it in here for? Yeah, I'm calling about the vehicle that was dropped off for the check engine light, rough running. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. It's been there for 2 weeks. Yeah, yeah. I totally forgot. What's going on with it? You go into your spiel, but it's
I reversed what you just said though. Reverse that. The customer calls in, they drop it off on a Monday. They call back Wednesday. Hey, I'm calling to check on my 2017 F-150 that I dropped off. You dropped it off? I mean, oh, wait a sec. Oh, I completely forgot about that. Yeah. The technician said that. What? You forgot about me? You forgot you forgot the truck's been there for a week and you didn't call me?
or we've had a couple of times. No, probably 3, 4, 5 times. Customer calls. Truck's been here for over a month. They finally call.
Yeah.
Oh, we're calling about the vehicle. What do you didn't drop off no vehicle. The tow truck driver dropped the vehicle off and left the keys in it, never said nothing to nobody.
Yeah.
We didn't know what this truck was sitting here. There's a whole bunch of trucks sitting around. They just all blend in. Like, I don't know what the heck this truck's here for. Just probably, oh, it's that other truck.
Or they drop it off at the wrong dealership.
Well, if you guys remember, I had an accelerator pedal issue on the 650, 750, and was going back and forth with the connectors, and I'm like, I wonder if there's a bad pedal. And I go walk on the lot, and this truck, I don't know what it was here for. I seen it had no drive shaft. The seatbelt was around the steering wheel. Oh, let me take this. Oh, this is a 7.3. I'll take this gas pedal. Well, it wound up being a truck that I was going to work on like 4 weeks later. I'm like, oh, this is the one I took the gas pedal out of. This thing's been sitting here this long? Ain't that a pain? I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What in the world?
Yeah.
So if you guys, anybody with a current 22, you guys got that sweet Sync 4 screen, kind of jelly. Was talking to Limitless. He's got one, and we were going over some stuff. If you all have Apple, some do, some don't, and want to take advantage of the full screen, I made a short today talking about what you need to do. Go to your dealer, and in order to get your Apple CarPlay to go full screen and not be split screen where you have like the cards and everything over here, it'll be the whole 12 inches. And what we need to do is update your APIM, your accessory protocol interface module. And that is pretty much the little module that is bolted, screwed to the back side of the screen on the Sync 3. I haven't had a Sync 4 one out, but I'm only going to assume that it's back behind that radio face. But we need to update it, and I would plan on leaving your vehicle there probably all day. This update's gonna be 4, 5, maybe 6 hours. We just had a truck that was 7.5 hours. Oh my goodness. It has to have a battery charger on it the entire time, 13 volts. But once it's done, you'll have another button that pops up on the screen that when your phone is connected, you'll have the screen go just like this. Then you hit the button, it goes back. So you'll have, new feature, I guess, for the Sync 4 guys. Is 23 going to come with that? I don't know. 23 is going to be completely different. 23, there's going to be so many new things with 23. Just looking at the wiring diagram that they have out, we have some hella vehicle communication networks. Looks like 3 new high-speed cans. We still have the HS1, HS2, HS3, but there's a whole.
There's Ethernet now, and
Oh,
the OBD2 plug is not directly connected to the networks now. It goes from the OBD2 plug to a gateway module. It's cool stuff. Then the gateway module goes everywhere else.
I heard that the coffee table book is going to be coming out, but after talking about it some more, even with some coworkers, I talked to an engineer that was at the shop. I feel that because this is going to be so, it's a still 6.7. Everybody's saying, oh, it's a 6.7, da, da, da. But there's so many things that are going to change to keep it being a 6.7 that I think we should have to go to a class, or have a Zoom, a hour-long video talking about everything. You got a dude talking about it, pointing to stuff, talking about this, talking about that, because I think there's so much stuff, even with the turbocharger, even looking under the hood. There's a video on YouTube, and you can pause and see there's different lines going to the turbo. I want to know about all this stuff, what the fuel pressure is going to be, what the turbo is going to be. Is the after treatment going to be different? Are we still going to have 4 EGTs? Are they making us have different kinds of NOx? I don't know. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I think is worthwhile knowing.
Looking at ECAT, it's going to have 4 EGTs, 3 NOx sensors, and a little injector like the Duramaxes have.
Going to be interesting.
You can see that in the wiring diagrams too.
Eric, what cars are those behind you right there?
They're a pair of they're Lotus Esprits.
They're really cool looking.
All I see is Need for Speed.
Yeah.
That was my favorite car.
Yeah, that was kind of my childhood dream car, and well, at least I bought the yellow one before they got expensive. I could never pay what they're worth now. There's no way.
Yeah.
For the guys,
go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say, for the guys that are watching that don't know Mr. Eric, why don't you tell what's your channel and
yeah. So I have the channel I Do Cars, and the most prevalent type of content I create is tearing down the most blown up engines I can find, trying to see what survived and what caused it. Sometimes you don't know because they're so destroyed. Sometimes they're really not that bad and they're misdiagnosed. So, but yeah, every Saturday night I post another video of another teardown.
What would you say is the worst or most common one that you see?
Well, it's like type of failure or type of engine.
Probably type of failure.
Type of failure is always oil starvation, whether it's dirty oil or not enough. It's all these late model cars, low tension oil rings, but people think that, I just got my oil changed 3,000 miles ago. We're good for 7 or 7,500 per the manufacturer. It shouldn't need oil. Yeah, well.
4 cylinders, V8s, doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter, yeah. I mean, there's certain engines, obviously every engine has their normal failure point. There's some engines that I'm amazed at what happened. Of course, there's also, lately I've been getting a lot of engines that drank a little too much water. I got a couple of those. That usually never ends well, but they make for the best videos. So, yeah, I'd say it's usually oil starvation or overheating. I see a lot of that too. And unfortunately, I don't usually get a story with these engines. I buy them. Sometimes I'm the 4th set of hands to get these engines after they've been removed. So I don't know how many miles are on them most of the time. I don't know what it's been through. Sometimes I don't even know what it's out of. I just know what the interchange of that engine is. So I can tell you a year range and an application. But I've had just about every type of failure on the channel. I've had And sometimes the craziest stuff, and sometimes you take one apart and you're like, did I miss something? Why did someone replace this? It's always expensive ones too that are like that. The cheap ones, you can always tell what the problem is, but the expensive engines, it's always like you take it apart, you're like, okay, it was in time, the rings look good, the valves look good. Did I just tear down a good engine?
Yeah.
But you don't know because you can't get it to operating temperature. You don't know if there's a small crack in a head that only opens up at operating temperature. You don't know if it uses oil really badly, and maybe someone just replaced the plugs in it before they pulled the engine out of it. You just don't know.
I like how you say oil starvation, and it is so it's stupid.
It's dumb
that we cannot get people to change their GD oil. Like I can't wrap my head around it sometimes because the amount of time that we talk about when we first started doing this a couple of years ago, all we did was talk about oil. Now we got Ford Boss. He's doing testing of his own at the house.
I spend thousands and thousands of dollars testing oil, and just so you guys know, the results finally came back for the entire SuperTech line, and people are like, oh, don't buy that cheap stuff, don't buy that cheap stuff, don't buy that cheap stuff. So some of you know that some of it is made by it's distributed by Warren or Warren Distributing. They have multiple facilities where they package and distribute oil, and they also have, was it Citco or somebody, whoever it is that makes it for them. But there's another guy that popped up, and he had a pretty much he had more of an in-depth video on actually digging in more into SuperTech oil from Walmart. And he said, I find it ironic that everybody believes that Warren is the only place that basically distributes this oil for, packages this oil for Walmart. When you look at the bottles, they have different symbols. Some of them say WPP, which is for Warren. Some of them have a symbol that's which is like a Pennzoil type symbol that you'd find on their containers. And then some of them have a bigger, fatter cap that's the exact make of the mobile type quarts of oil. So when you dig into it and you start looking into different things, you find that it actually looks like, and is pretty much confirmed by this guy through digging and talking to these manufacturers and stuff, that Warren is not the only company that makes Walmart oil based on region. You can get Pennzoil, you can get Mobil, or you can get Warren in a SuperTech bottle. And then I then transfer into how important this stuff is and why I don't follow manufacturer service intervals, and why it's the bean counters and the people that market the product that actually present these extended OCIs to people to make them believe that they don't have to change the oil until 10,000 miles. And it's all a bunch of hogwash. I don't know how many brand new vehicles I've had come in with 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 miles, and I pull an oil sample at 5,000 miles. And even though the TBN is still good and the additive pack is still good, there's so much fuel dilution where it's starting to break down that oil with these turbocharged low tension applications and stuff like that, that the oil is no longer good. And the analysis comes back that even though you have plenty of ad pack at this mileage, you have almost no room left for fuel dilution. And now your oil is actually starting to break down. So you need to change the oil, preferably by 5,000 miles, not going 7,000, 10,000 miles. And that's kind of where I generated that rule of thumb, that especially at the dealer level, with me seeing so many brand new low mile vehicles with so much fuel dilution at 4,000 and 5,000 miles, I tell people, I don't care what your theory is. I don't care what book you're reading or what professional you're talking to. By about 5,000 miles, if you pull that oil cap and you can smell the amount of fuel that's just raw in there that's diluting that oil. And just change it, man. Do yourself up.
I've never heard of an engine going bad from somebody changing it too often.
Right. Exactly.
Never seen that happen. But the opposite, all the time.
Oh yeah.
You got to look at oxidation levels too.
Yeah. Yep.
Ray or Ford Boss, I need to change my oil. I'm at 4,800 miles.
Yeah. The SuperTech that came back, just to touch on that real quick, the ad pack for the 20,000 mile formula from Walmart was actually pretty good. It was actually higher and better rated by number version analysis than Mobile One Extended Performance. And it was surprising because the bottle, the cap and everything looks identical to the mobile bottle that I have with the Extended Performance. And I was like, if this guy's theory is right and all the digging and research that he's done about these three companies, there's a mobile blend that's in here. The ironic part about it is this cheap SuperTech oil that people talk trash about actually has a better ad pack than Mobile Extended Performance does. So,
Oh shoot. He had to put us on mute because DS just ran into some tree branches.
Did he really?
I thought he dropped
he did.
something.
Oh yeah, I muted it because this is the kind of things that happen. See those branches?
Yeah, I heard it. Oh, that's funny.
Dude,
Did
I
it
was
just hit your
wondering what
salter
he
or what?
does when he runs into something.
Stops and checks
They
his
got all
pulse.
that snow that they got all that snow that we don't get, Rain Man.
Oh my
Where's
god.
he at?
Michigan.
Michigan,
Oh yeah. Well, that's normal there, I guess.
Just got
Yeah.
dumped on.
we only got like 3 inches or so, 4 inches.
Really?
But it was so warm here overall. It was between 32 and 34 that it all was melting right away.
Oh
Yes.
wow.
It's 65 degrees here and raining.
Dang.
Yeah, we got like 10 inches of sunshine today.
I'll be there in a few weeks, right down the road from Ray.
Right on.
Heck yeah, man.
Have fun in Disney. Hopefully you don't
But
leave.
That's what I do, Eric, is I do a lot of oil stuff. While we're here and we're on the subject, I've been working with Marvel Mystery Oil for the last year to create their Marvel Mystery Oil synthetic blend formula.
Cool.
It's a PAO base. A lot of you guys have not seen this yet. And this is the first time you're seeing this. This can be used in any diesel or gasoline application, turbocharger that's safe for all that. The reason they did that is because they wanted something more stable in performance applications, turbocharged applications. And the diesel guys were really wanting something else to try out. And they listened to kind of like everybody's needs and wants whenever we did that podcast last year and we did a live interview. And we worked together over the last year to create the product. And now it's on like the shelf of, I don't know, it was in Florida, it was in Texas, it was in California already. People in Massachusetts were sending me pictures of it on their shelf. It was in Southern Illinois. So just in a matter of a week, it's starting to spread all over the United States already, and AutoZone already has it on the shelves. So
That's
it's
awesome.
Come
Yeah.
get us.
So I do oil. I should do a channel. I do oil.
I do oil.
I do cars and I do oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting snow. These bean bags are getting rain. So that begs the difference on Rust Belt. Where
Yeah,
are
we don't
you?
we don't have rust.
So do
Yeah,
you
it's
go, what is your go-to for the blue tipped? Are you grabbing MAP or are you grabbing propane? Or do you even own a set of torches?
Mine is MAP from
For
on my
what?
box.
Yeah.
For, he says, for what? I'll slap you, silly boy.
MAP. I have MAP on mine right now.
MAP? What do you guys use? Are you grabbing MAP? Are you grabbing are you grabbing
Oxyacetylene.
Oxy?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing?
I go right for
comments
the
there?
liquid orange. I mean, it can't be stuck if it's.
I see Cody puts on
melting.
his little
Ray
rosebud.
just said, I look at it and I say, you come off of there, and it just comes off.
Yeah.
I
get out of here.
ask very nicely sometimes and then spray lube on it.
Snowmageddon Chan.
I've had to use my loader before. It's happened a few times actually. Get some northern stuff. Get a stuck bolt. Can't cut it because of where it's at. Just put a breaker bar on it and use the wheel loader.
Can't
Yeah.
be stuck if it's liquid.
Yeah.
Right.
That is true.
Balls
That
off.
is true. That's true. Sometimes I just don't feel like going to get it. It's like, yeah, can I just get it with the MAP? It's like if you're doing an EGT, you almost got to go get the oxyacetylene because you need
It's
that
not
thing
gonna get hot.
cherry.
The only time I use a torch is, like the press-in bearings, like on the Escape, Rich.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you got the hub that presses into it, and you always have that piece of the bearing that sticks to the hub.
Yeah.
I learned a trick from the senior master. You go to the vise,
Yeah.
stick an extension in there, heat it up, and spin it, and it just falls off.
Yeah, I've been seeing those pop up over the last like year and a half
Hmm.
on social media a lot of guys trying to show tips and tricks, but you know what?
It
I wanna
works.
try. It does work. I want to try it one day. I've seen it done, but I still do it the old school way. I put a little scar down the side of the collar and just pull out the air hammer, falls right off. But again, I want to try the torch one day because it does look really cool. I seen one guy put it in a drill, and he had like the drill in the vise, and then he had like an extension down in the drill, and he was spinning it around, and then he just held the torch there as it was spinning around, and it just
I
hit
used to use
straight down.
thermite.
No, the senior master looked at me and goes, go to the vise over there and get the torch. I was like, oh, we're going to cut it? I'm used to the old school grinder. You'll put
Yes,
a line in
sir.
it like Rich is talking about. He was
Yeah.
like, nah. And he stuck it on there, grabbed a hold of the stud, put the torch on the bottom of it. It was just spinning. And I was like, what is he doing? And it just goes plink and falls down. I was like, and then you can just grab it because it's not hot.
Because it's a heat sink, so you heat up the bearing faster than what it can actually transfer over into the rest of the metal, so you can grab it by hand and it will never even reach your finger. You're fine. So a lot of people would think. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's like 10 seconds. That thing fell off.
Yeah, it's easy to do it that way. Yeah, I want to try it one day, but I haven't tried it that way yet.
I should have filmed a short or a video of him doing that. I learned. I'd never seen it done before, and I said, "Where did you learn that?" He said, "TikTok." I was like,
Yeah.
Are you serious?
TikTok and you don't stop.
That rust, I tell you. Speaking of
What's
which,
rust?
speaking of which, you don't have to be in the Rust Belt to have this kind of rust happen. You get some shitty fuel, or your PCV is going to look like what's sitting over CP Garage's head. Rust Belt that.
What is this
That's
rust
when you
speak
get
of?
That's what happens
water.
in Florida.
Water in your fuel. How does that happen?
You leave your gas cap off.
Yes, I use a lot of profanity. I know I do. I know. I try to
How
keep
does
it
that-
clean.
How does that happen? That happens when these guys try to upfit their diesels and they put auxiliary tanks in the back, and they think that they can neglect the maintenance on their auxiliary tanks as well. But and when they need to realize the auxiliary tanks are sometimes just important to take care of as the main fuel tank is. So,
Or you get the guys that go to the hood, and because they saw a diesel for 328 and think they got a good deal, and then come in to get their maintenance done, and I'm like, why does it smell like gasoline? Right. Okay. So $3.28 sounds good now, right? Okay. So fuel system, $3.28 fuel system. Okay.
How's that $12,000 bill?
Let us know how that works out for you.
12 to 14, depending on where you're at.
I mean, that happens just by humidity in Florida.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Make sure you drain your water separators every month, people.
And we just did the video on the MDD Performance cat install on the Power Stroke.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get him on the show.
It looked good.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I talked to Mark for a little bit, and Mark was, super cool about chatting, and he asked how it all went. I said the install went great. The cat filter was actually nice not having that. So this is another topic that maybe if Aaron can bring up, or we can all talk about. Cody's real good at digging stuff up when we can't find it. I was talking to Mark, and he said, I think it's kind of ironic, these guys are concerned with this bypass valve and the anti-drain, the drain back diaphragm and stuff in the oil filter, when it doesn't really cause a problem. Through all the testing and everything, the fuel pressures the oil pressures were great. The startup was great. There was never any indication that there would be a concern with anything. And I said, I noticed the same thing as well. As when I fired the truck up for the first time, it was super smooth. There was none of that 6.7 Power Stroke tick that normally happens at the beginning.
That typewriter?
Yeah, that typewriter tick. It was just straight smooth with that cat filter and stuff on there. It was just instant oil pressure, and the engine was nice and smooth. No typewriter tick going on that you'd normally hear. I don't see a problem with it. And he said, the thing that people forget or don't know is that oil pump in that system actually has its own safety built into it, to where if it exceeds a certain pressure, it will bypass. It knows it's not going to let that system starve because of an oil filter. And
Only
he said
thing-
a lot.
Go ahead, finish.
Go ahead.
I mean, an oil bypass, you're going to bypass oil through a filter. It's going to be nasty ass oil bypassing through the filter. I mean, it's going to be no different than having a pressure delta between each side, in my opinion.
That's what people don't get is I told Mark, I said, I try to explain that to people anyway. You're bypassing on startup anyway. It's literally unfiltered oil going into the engine for the first however long until the oil gets warm enough to where it can flow through that filter pleat. So what are people actually complaining about?
Right.
Every single cold start, your vehicle's bypassing. What are you complaining about?
Oh, that we're pre-filling oil filters and we're introducing contaminants into. Get out of here, man.
I mean, I might have had something to do with that.
In the video, I actually pointed out, I was like, look, for you guys that want to attack me for not pre-filling oil filters or this guy pre-filling or that, if you want to be critical about this, the only way to properly, and I know I'm being anal about this, the only way to properly pre-fill an oil filter is by plugging off the center of it and filling from the outside. That's the only way to properly do it. You're just dumping straight oil down the center of it. If it's out of a quart, you can see everything that's going on. I get it. But in that video, I actually made a point to say, well, you see how I'm pre-filling this? It's through the exterior holes on the dirty side. So I'm not pouring it into the clean fill area that goes right into the engine. So those of you guys that are going out there and getting on my butt about not pre-filling this and that and everything else, and just dumping it straight down the center, that's why some of you jerkos out there are introducing contaminants and stuff into that engine because you don't pay attention to what's going on and you're dumping shit straight into that filter. That's why a lot of times I'll spin the filter on, clean and dry. I'll fire the truck up, and within just seconds, that oil pressure is already there and doesn't cause a lick of concern.
You know what else I found out about filters? So people that pre-fill the filter, they think that it goes into the engine. Obviously, oil goes into the engine, but it does not leave the filter. And so the oil pickup sends it to the filter, then it goes to the engine.
Right.
Whatever's in the filter when you pre-fill it doesn't go to the engine first. It has to wait for the pressure from the oil pump.
It has to have that complete path of flow.
Prime or whatever, yeah.
Yep.
It has to have the prime there. And that's why Caterpillar early on, or that's why Caterpillar recently, who's the other guy? There's another guy here on YouTube. He's a cat technician. And he talks about this. And he said that's why they recommend not pre-filling their filters and stuff, because what ends up happening is you create filter cavitation and you end up introducing contaminants into the systems. That's why a lot of these fuel filters and oil filters, these guys stop pre-filling because of that void or that purge in between. You got oil and then air and then oil. And then when you start to pull that stuff through there, you can actually cavitate the system.
Aerated, yeah.
It's do whatever works for you.
I'd like to see it in person. I'd like to see the kit.
Oh, it's nice.
Did Crowdster like it?
He did really like it. It looks really cool. It's kind of aggressive but subtle at the same time. And I actually asked some important questions, like I noticed when you put the oil filter adapter onto the housing and you torque it down to 30 foot-pounds, there's nothing specified to use like a dab of Loctite or anything like that. What's to stop somebody from putting that filter on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off over and over again and slowly working that filter base loose? And he said the way we designed that and tested it is 30 foot-pounds was perfect, because those two, you're talking about taking a softer aluminum and bolting it to a softer aluminum. You don't want to over torque that, for one. And number two, the way it all sets with that more flush mount gasket. And he said, if you notice, the gasket on the base is thinner, and it's a square cut gasket versus a more plush, squishy one, like on an oil filter. It's made to be torqued a certain way, and then it makes contact a certain way, so it stays there. So he said, you're not going to have to worry about that base coming off over and over and over. And even at that, torque it back down. Not a big deal. So.
I want to see it. I'm kind of interested. I don't know if I'd want the giant one. Yeah. I think I'd want the next one, the smaller one, but
the next one down's made by Baldwin.
I'd like to I'm in the comments, Daddy. I'd like to see them side by side. I'd like to maybe get underneath the truck and actually, boom, 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 boom. Yeah. No Crowdster, I see you. You good. You ain't glitching. You ain't glitching.
You get plenty of protection too, because guys were like, with that 18 series cat filter like that, how far it sticks down. Did it pass the underbody of the truck anywhere? No, it's up. It actually, the axle's still lower than it, and
radius arm
is still much lower than it. So there's quite a bit before you get to the bottom of the radius arm. So nothing would actually hit that filter, unless it just hit from like a weird angle or something like that. But then even at that could be any filter that's mounted there.
We have a email that I thought was kind of interesting. This is a fuel issue. Fuel issue is big. Probably one of the top things that I see on the 6.7. That and the after treatment. This is a 2017 F450 6.7 fuel issues. The title says a senior YouTube channel is hoping for some help. I have a 17 450 6.7 with 120K stock. So at first I had the low, high pressure, and no start. That's what he says. So I changed fuel rail pressure sensor and fuel pressure regulator, still nothing. So I changed high pressure pump. Truck still is a no start. Sounds like low pressure pump wasn't pushing enough fuel. So I replaced the low pressure pump. At this time, I replaced both fuel filters. When I took off the small return line on the upper filter, I noticed a thick purple O-ring sticking out of the port. I cut open the filter, and there was another thick purple O-ring. I can't figure out where those O-rings came from. He put mornings. But now I have replaced both pumps and filters twice. I have a P2291 ICP2 low while cranking. When I turn the key, low side gets 50 to 60, 70 PSI, but once pump turns off, it drops quickly, which is normal. I figured the purple O-rings are what's causing the problem, but I can't figure out where they came from. I've looked at the fuel lines and the fittings and do see any O-rings that are missing inside the quick disconnects. All lines at fuel tank have 2 O-rings, one yellow, one green, and all lines from there are the same thing.
Only place I've seen purple O-rings was with a specific company's disaster prevention kit.
So
took out a fuel system.
Is this not a stock truck? So
it's the only place I've seen purple O-rings. This certain company's certain disaster prevention kit that we don't talk about.
Let's see here. Are there any modifications done to this rig?
I mean, it's making base pressure, so it's not making high pressure. It's either a pump or a high pressure fuel leak.
Or that rail.
Well, that falls under high pressure fuel leak.
Well, yeah, I mean, because he said replace did he replace the VCV?
Did he tighten, if he did the PCV, did he tighten it right?
I know. Well, that and the...
You said he replaced the pump.
Orifice. So I changed fuel rail pressure sensor and fuel pressure regulator.
Ooh, did he tighten it right?
Can be kind of tricky. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, the driver's side rail has 2, looking at it, you guys are looking at me, pretend you're looking through the wheel well. The rail bolts to the engine, and right here you have the pressure control valve, and right here you have the fuel rail pressure, the FRP sensor. And you have all of these lines. You have 7 of them, 4 for the injectors and 3 for the lines that are going to go over the engine. And there is an orifice in this rail. You guys have seen me talk about it. And this orifice is supposed to equalize the pressure from this rail over to this rail. It's supposed to have equal pressure because all the injectors are supposed to have the same pressure. So if that becomes dislodged somehow, or you get, I mean, if you had contaminants in it, then the truck's not going to start. But the tricky part is when you're unscrewing the PCV out of the back of the rail and you screw the new one in, the sealing surface, the threads, there's not a real gasket or anything.
Right there, the threads.
Yeah, see he's pointing to? They're actually cutting into the rail. And if you don't follow the torque sequence, you'll have a leak between these two spots where he's right over his right shoulder, and it's it can be a pain in the butt. So it's I don't know. It's just real tricky. Usually I recommend replacing just the rail because they all come together, and sometimes the rails that orifice has failed, at least for me, 4 or 5 times.
If that orifice fails, that's usually an 88. Get high pressure because it smashes the end of that. It smashes that tip.
I thought he was raising his hand to speak. I'm betting he didn't clock the PCV correctly. That could be. But I mean, like Cody said, where do these purple O-rings come from?
I only know one place where those things come from. He bought the wrong disaster prevention kit.
Ray, why do people bring you the difficult jobs?
Because nobody else will do them.
Right.
That's why.
Same goes for the dealer. The truck usually makes its rounds to a couple of shops, and then, well, I guess I gotta take it to the dealer. The dealer's always the last spot. Some people want to go to the dealer right off the rip, and sometimes parts get thrown at trucks, and then they come to us, and
they get mad when we charge them accordingly.
You know, what kills me is everybody seems to think the dealer is the most expensive place in town, and it's usually not the case. I mean, yeah, there's a labor rate that's, you see $140 an hour. You're like, whoa. You go down the road and you pay somebody else $125 an hour, but they screw your car up. Well, you just paid someone to cost you money. If you went to the guy that knew what was going on or knew what to do, then you paid the guy to do the job, and then you got the results you wanted. That's paying for expensive things, especially on your $80,000 truck, is not something you want to seek a bargain for. It's the lowest bidder might not be the right person to go to.
Like that intake manifold on that 6.2. Rich, you commented on that video. Somebody tried to sell him an engine. And it's the intake manifold runner control.
I get a lot of guys that message me, and then one of the one that sticks out in my mind the most is I had a tech from a diesel shop message me, and I don't know if you've ever, Eric, pulled apart one of our 6.2s. Just regular. The intake manifold, IMRC, the runner ends up malfunctioning, and it'll tap on like the 17 and above. It'll tap, tick, tap, tick, tap, tip, and it'll sound like it's deep in the engine. And it'll be like a hybrid between a tick and a knock kind of sound, and it starts to resonate. And I remember looking at my first one, being confused and kind of going through, looking at PIDs, looking at the data logger and stuff, seeing what's going on. And our old school diesel tech, I mean, he's been doing this stuff for like 40 years, comes up to me and he says, "That sounds bad, doesn't it?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, Yeah. And he says, let's have a look at it. Let's get the stethoscope out and let's go over the engine together. And this is years ago. And we're stethoscoping it. We're listening. It sounds like it's coming from the center of the engine, but it sounds like it's deep, like lower than the intake manifold. And he says, "I want to show you something real quick. Pull up IDS, go into your data logger, pull up your IMRC on and off, and let's take command of the IMRC. Turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. You notice how that knock goes away?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "That knock is that IMRC and that runner messing up. And you would think it sounds like a rod or something, and you would sell them an engine. That's not what it is. Experience is everything in this field. and knowing how to use the proper tools to diagnose this. And then I expanded off of that. And I said, well, why couldn't I just go over to that intake manifold runner control solenoid on the passenger side right on top of the intake manifold and just unplug the connector? On, off, on, off. And then I don't need a computer. So I'm thinking about the independent guys out there. They could do the same thing. And he said, that is a very, very good way to do it. They could unplug the connector. They could plug it back in, or they can unplug the vacuum line going from the solenoid down there and do it that way as well. Well, then I started talking about it and doing some videos on it. And then I started getting more of these that were, it was like a BNSF Super Duty came in, and then another railroad company Super Duty came in, and they were quoted out engines for this. And
wow, that's sad.
And I did some videos on it, and I had an independent tech reach out to me, and he said, man, I just put like this $12,000 engine in this guy's truck, and it was still knocking, making this tap sound. And I ran across your video, and I went and did what you showed, and it was the intake manifold the whole entire time. And he said, I've been doing this for years, man. Wow. And I would have never thought that a $600 intake manifold would cause that. And I just ordered an intake manifold, and I'm going to put it on there, and I'm confident that's going to be the fix. You literally just saved my ass. And I was like, yeah, but you just put a $12,000 engine in this customer's vehicle.
Nothing was wrong with the other one.
Yeah. So yeah, I just saved your ass, but you screwed the customer in the process.
So my video, you can hear it. It sounds like rod knock bad.
Yeah.
So I got the IDS and I'm filming it on and off. You saw the video, and you jinxed me because you said, good luck getting one. Well, they're on stop sale, back order, no ETA.
Yeah. And
the dude's happy that he doesn't have to have an engine, but he's unhappy because we don't know when we'll get an intake.
In some situations, it can happen with a 5-liter Coyote as well. Yep. In some, but very rare have I seen it. It's more the IMRC square drive nub that goes into the sensor, shears off on the back of the intake manifold, and it can't read the position that it's supposed to be in properly. And you'll get these intake manifold runner codes, and people are trying to diagnose wires and all this other stuff. And that was one of my first big jobs.
You get a misfire on one bank.
Yeah. So we got misfires on one bank, and Rob, he's looking at it. He said, didn't you do like some videos on this or something like that? And Rob, he's been in the field for 35 years or whatever. And he said, I think I remember you doing something with the intake manifold, didn't you? And he said, that like whole bank on the passenger side is misfiring. And I was like, intermittently or kind of all at the same time? And he said, a little intermittently, and pulled it all apart, pulled the intake manifold off of it. And that little rod that comes out into the sensor was sheared off on the back side of it. And he said, now how the hell am I going to get an intake manifold? These things are on back order. Good luck.
Aftermarket.
Used one?
Yeah, probably. Yep. My question are the new ones any better than the old ones, other than the fact that they're not broken?
No.
So we had one in parts that they ordered for another truck that ended up not needing it, but it was a 17. It will not fit an 18.
Yeah. There are some differences, but no, I think, Eric, I think you're right. At that point, you might be better off just trying to find a good used one with a seller with a good rating or something like that, because I've seen them replaced and then come back 2 years later and they broke again.
So now is it resistance from those flasks moving from like PCV buildup or anything like that? Like, is that what causes the extra the extra resistance to shear that, or what causes, like, obviously something is the weak link, but usually there's a catalyst.
When you look at the square drive that comes out, and you've got your vacuum diaphragm that moves up and down, and then the little arm goes up to the IMRC, and then the sensor goes on the back side of it so it can read whatever position it's being pivoted in. It snaps off right there. When I pulled the little piece off, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, why does this stuff look like pot metal? Why is this not like, it's all porous-y and pitty inside it? And I was like, it looks like this, like you could take a pair of pliers and just snap this little thing in two, like really easy, like just snap into. Why would they build something with such inferior metal like this, or components that like this looks really easy to break? Wow. And it's super, super tiny. It's only like, what would you say, Andy? Like like a 1/4 inch or whatever thick, or maybe a little less than that. And it's like,
I think it's a little less. Yeah.
it's less, it's tiny, it's itty bitty. And you mean that little drive is supposed to be moved over and over and over and over again, thousands of times?
Think of it like a Blendor motor. You know, when they start clicking, same thing. They eventually break. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't see trucks that new at all.
Yeah.
I can't swing on those big expensive trucks. People fix them, but
Yeah.
it's nice to know that. That's the first time I've heard that. So.
And then you know how everybody, there are a lot of people complain about the coyote, the knock, and the barbecue tick sound and stuff like that. Some of it you can get rid of, and some of it you can't. And
Higher octane gas.
I talk to people all the time, and I'm like, what are you running? And they're like, oh, I drive a 2018, F-150 with a 5.0 liter. And I said, yeah, it's a 3rd gen. So that's got like 12-to-1 compression. And I bet you're running like 87 in it. Oh yeah, the cheap stuff or whatever. You're running that on a 12-to-1 compression engine. Well, yeah, Ford says it's okay. I don't care what Ford says. You're running that on a 12-to-1 compression engine, and you're relying on a computer to be able to take everything out with timing. It doesn't work that way. Put some good fuel in there, some higher octane fuel in there. Go to Shell, get some 93, and then tell me drive it for a week and tell me, oh man, it sounds so good now with. Yeah, of course it does. What do you
running that cheap gas too? You'll get on the throttle and you let off the throttle. It sounds like timing chain rattle, but it's actually like spark knocking.
Yeah.
I mean, it says it right in the owner's manual.
Yeah.
It will ping.
And one of the guys recently I was added to an F-150 group online. And I started my own on Facebook now as well, just so everybody can chat and communicate. One of the guys that's on there actually is one of the admin on the other group. And he said, I was watching your video on that off accelerator chatter that comes from those engines, where when you get on the throttle, everything's fine. You let go and it goes from the chattering, ratcheting sound from the VCT solenoids. And I said, yeah, you can replace them, but the sound will be back. If not, a day later, a week later, 2 weeks later, it'll come right back. And he said, I'm going to do some investigating in this while I have these phasers out, and I'm going to see. He's upgrading his phasers to the new Gen 3 phasers on his 3.5 EcoBoost. But he said the same thing was happening to that 3.5 with that chatter that I showed with the 5-liter. And he took it apart and he said, dude, there's like 4 check valves in this one solenoid alone. And he laid it out on a table and showed me with it all torn apart. And he said, that's going to be a normal sound. How do you normalize that when you're coming off throttle to be able to control that with all these different check valves in line like this in this solenoid? And I said, that's what I'm telling you, man. You can put brand new ones in there and it's not going to fix the problem. They chatter whenever you come off the accelerator. They'll make like a pintle chattering sound. It's just as soon as you come off the throttle, it's a normal sound they all make.
You can't sing the song, bro.
Just buy VCT lockouts and be done with it.
Yeah.
My neighbor did that once, and it was just a complete dunzo. It was no more VCT, 543 valve. Done.
Eric's done those before. I've seen that.
Yeah.
540.
I have sold 2 3-valve 5.4s that ran great, had good oil pressure, and both came back. I told them, look, there's no warranty unless you do the oil pump, the timing system, like just do it all. And then if you do all that stuff, you show me a receipt, it's a 1-year warranty on it because I know it should last that long. And both of them got it torn down and found wiped out cam journals, wiped out cams, and brought them back.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm not buying any more 5.4 stuff. It's just, you don't know how these trucks have been taken care of. You don't know who's been driving them, who's been working on them.
It's tough because, like, if you look at I was talking to one of the engineers, if you look at the way the oil flow is in that engine, you have the oil filter on the bottom right side of that engine. It picks up oil, goes into the filter. It goes from the filter up the driver's side of the engine and then into the driver's side head, down the head, then it has to cross over to the passenger side, go to the back of the passenger cylinder head, go up into the cylinder head, and then back forward down into an oil flow passage that goes to your timing chain tensioners. And it's like, why is that the last place that gets oil in this thing? That should be one of the first places that gets oil in this thing, but it's the last. And why would you put a paper gasket on the back of these things for them to blow out? And then guys are like, well, fix that problem. Just buy some 4.6 2-valve cast iron tensioners and be done with it. But it's still the last place to get oil. It's a terrible, terrible design.
Yeah, I have one of those trucks. It's one of my shop trucks, and I bought it with a blown motor. I bought the lowest mileage engine I could find. Had the dealership put it in because I didn't have a working rack at the time, and I wasn't going to try that without a rack. And it's been a challenge to keep that thing together because I'm not the only one that drives it. You know, it's a shop truck, and I get in it, and every time I'm like, well, all the lights are on the dash, and like stuff's all broken every time I get in it. But you know, what the hell? Like, this is my personal truck, and I made it a shop truck, and now it's a pile of crap. But
when guys go in there, they upgrade to the 4.6 2-valve cast iron tensioners, and then they get like some of the guys that feel froggy enough end up getting like the Ford Racing. What are they, like the steel chain guides and stuff? And and then they change all the rockers out to the rockers that have the bigger port in the center of it, rather than the small one. And they still come back years later. You'll get them back a year later or 2 years later, and they're like, it doesn't fix the problem. It'll make it better. But
I think when mine eventually lets go, because I'll be honest here, it's going to happen. It's one of my guys is not going to check the oil for a week or 2 weeks, and it burns a little bit, and I'm going to go out there and it's going to run good for 30 seconds and start hammering. I'm going to probably try to stick a 6.2 in that thing.
Let's be honest.
My guy's like 6.2. 6.2.
Yeah, I tore that one I tore down. I was really impressed with how it was built. It's such a drastic change from the 5.4. Yeah.
One of the things I notice I get failures is they'll come from like independent shops, or it'll come from, I haven't really worked on one that came from another dealership. The last one I had came from an independent shop where they did chains and phasers and stuff on this 5.4 3-valve, and it was throwing a cam correlation code. And as I was rotating the engine around, I noticed that the fingers that were on the front of that phaser on the passenger side were bent. It was like bent in. So it wasn't picking up correctly on that sensor. So I reached down in there with a long screwdriver, and I lined it back up, and then I kind of overdid it so it would spring back to its normal position. And then there was another one right next to it. I lined it back up. I got back in the truck and I fired it right back up, and all the codes cleared. And I was like,
Sometimes you get lucky. I caught one for another yard that I deal with. Sold a Mazda 4-cylinder a long time ago, and they whoever installed it, they must have been a little rough on it, or maybe whoever pulled it, but they knocked a couple teeth off the Ford Edis wheel on the crank pulley.
Oh, wow.
It ran, but really bad, and they threw every part you could possibly imagine at it. They just they're like, oh, we'll buy you a mask there, we'll buy you this, we'll buy you that. And I mean, you can throw parts at it. There's a lot of parts on cars, and
parts cannon.
Yep. And they bought the motor back from the customer, and they're like, maybe you can figure out what's wrong with it. And I looked at it for 2 seconds, and there's like a big gouge in the front of the crank pulley, and then directly behind that there's like 2.5 teeth gone. I'm like, yeah, that's what's wrong with it right there.
You ever run into a blow your mind right now? So a vehicle comes in, it will start, it'll run for 15 minutes, and it will die. It won't start back up and run for like another 15 or 20 minutes. Start up, run perfectly fine for about 15 minutes, and then die. And then it won't start back up again for another 15 or 20 minutes. No codes.
I mean, what kind of car?
Let's say Focus, 2-liter.
Oh man, I don't buy those things.
Focus.
I don't know really. I mean, if it's got no codes.
It took me 2 freaking full days to figure it out. The magnetic pickup, or the magnetic the crank sensor, would be fine for about 15 minutes until it started to get so hot, the magnetic field would break down and would send no signal to PCM. It would take about 15, 20 minutes for that sensor to cool down completely. They could fire the vehicle back up and it'd be fine again for 15 minutes of running, and then it'd die again. And it would do the same thing over and over. And I caught it on the data logger. I was watching it and I was like, boom, right there. Look at that crank signal just dropped out of nowhere. Let me go try to. So I went out to the lot on one that was waiting for a TCM, our notorious trans control module.
I have so many of those right now. I don't even. It's a very sore subject in our shop right now.
We have. I know another guy that's got like 12 on his lot. We had like 6, and we're down to like 3 or 4 we're waiting on, and they said they don't have no ETA because it was like last time we checked, it was 50,000 units on back order, 10,000 pending to be released.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I probably have like 50, maybe 60 of those things. They're salvage yard pullouts, so they could be good. But we went through, I bought a Ford Fiesta from a tow lot. We cracked one open, which if you've ever opened one of those up, it takes like 30 minutes. You have to build a jig to get it hot enough to break the sealant down. We spent all this time, opened it up, found some stuff that we could fix. There's like 2 major things that go wrong that I know of with them. And we repaired the ones that we could repair. I tried to program it to this Fiesta to prove the repair because I'm not just going to wing it. And I couldn't get any of them to communicate after I opened them. And I took them back apart, continuity test everything, check everything, wouldn't communicate. And so, yeah, I have several days of my guys' time wrapped up in those. I have I went out and bought a whole bunch because I thought this was a for sure thing. I jumped the gun a little bit, and now
I got 50 of them.
There's a place I believe down here in Florida that remands them. You send them out and they fix them. That's what we've been been telling them.
There are places that I'm going to use air quotes here. Remand control modules, and they wire wheel them, put a sticker on them, and call them rebuilt.
Well, I mean, that's what we're recommending as,
Yeah.
Ford.
I mean, if you get good luck out of them, that's awesome. I just know that. Go ahead.
We bought a couple from Napa, and it took us 3 or 4 the first time to get a good one.
Yeah.
On the fourth one, like you said, we ran into the same exact problem you did, Eric. We would try to communicate with it. We couldn't communicate with the damn thing. And then we put another one in, and then another one in, and then finally we got to the 4th one, and now we were able to run through the programming, the clutch setting, and all that other stuff when you have to rev it up and find clutch A and B and all this other stuff. So we're doing that, and then we had another one where we got it, and we went through 3 before we got a good one, and I think they were Dorman remands, and they weren't working. They just were not working.
So I don't know how much you guys know about the backside of the auto salvage industry and where all of the remand units come from. Do you have an idea of where what those are?
No, but I'm sure you do.
So I know more than I wish I did. Anyway, there's a life cycle parts. And those parts, so say, for instance, I buy a car. There's certain parts that I don't sell off cars. I don't really sell alternators or AC compressors, starters, very few steering racks unless it's a really hot commodity. It's not worth my time. So they're called cores. So there's several companies. There's one local here, and there's one in Rhode Island. There's a couple other companies on the West Coast, and they buy all of these cores. Now they basically want to buy good parts for core price. And then what they do is they bundle them up. They're just basically like a packaging. They get a whole bunch of them together, and then they'll sell them to Dorman or Cardone or whoever, and then they remanufacture them. Now, here's the thing. A lot of those parts are bad, and they treat them all the same. Now, I have seen engine computers that have been repaired. I mean, they do repair them, but there's a lot of stuff where they come right out of the box, and you're like, this is a junkyard part that has silver spray paint on it and a sticker. It's not remanufactured. It just isn't. And so there's no, it's a used part. And then sometimes, it's a part, say it's a part like, the late model GM stuff, like anything that's, I can't think of the name of it, but anything that I think it's like 13 or 14 and later, all of those, you have to they can't be reprogrammed, even though there are ways to reprogram them, but nobody really does that. I mean, I know people that do, but very few people do that. Those parts, all of a sudden, you just can't get remanufactured. You can get them from GM because they have the way to do that. So they kind of, by using like the over-the-air update stuff, any of the, I can't think of the name. I don't know why it's escaping the modules, the global modules, global A and global B. Any of those modules that have like a VIN etched to them, it's really an global identifier inside. I feel like the reason they did that, it has nothing to do with them being able to, what they claim is that, it's that way somebody can't steal parts out of your car. That's like their fallback excuse for this. But what it really is that way they can control the entire life cycle of that part. Mm-hmm. And their aftermarket side can't use them. I've heard things of how I like all brands to a degree, but they do some things like they're a business and sometimes it's not in the favor of the public. They do things where they don't allow TIS to reprogram a used module. They'll do an update and all of a sudden you can't, it sees a used module and it says, nope, we can't do this. So then you have to jump through some hoops to trick it. And there's always a way.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's like how like all the brake calipers, alternators and starters, those are all junkyard parts, every last one of them. And I'm a really small yard. I do 200 cars a year, 250 cars a year if I'm really cranking cars out. There are yards that do, like my friends that run 3,000 cars, 4,000 cars a year, and they fill big, giant cardboard Gaylord boxes filled with alternators and calipers, and they just toss it there and they get shipped off. I mean, I fill one of those boxes up every 3 months, and it's $2,500 every 3 months. It's worth doing, but there was a time where the local place to me did not want to buy my engine computers because they were bad. Yeah. But they want to buy cores, but they don't want to buy bad cores. They want to buy good parts at core price.
Yeah. Right.
So that's those TTUs, the reason it could be hit or miss is because they're literally maybe they just plug into them and they run some sort of test and go, yes, it passed. No, it didn't. The ones that pass their test, whether it's they have a stim or some sort of way of proving
bench testing it.
Yeah, bench testing it. Maybe those are the ones that, they get hot and they act up or whatever it is. They can't prove that. So
that could
I don't
explain some of that stuff with the alternators that I just ran through. Remember that, Aaron?
Mm-hmm.
Six alternators on that town car.
Oh my God.
Two Ford OE ones, reman ones, like $500 some units from the dealer, and it wouldn't make it over 12.8 volts. It wouldn't even speak to the computer. The charge light would go out, but it would not even charge. And then another OE one reman, same big reman sticker right on the top of it. It wouldn't even charge. And I went with 3 AutoZone Gold ones, and
got it.
It would charge, but the charge light would not go off on the dash. And then I went to a Napa Premium Plus or Power Premium Plus or whatever. And then it started charging and the charge light went out and it was able to communicate with that one, but it would communicate with none of the other ones.
Wow.
Unreal.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been a bunch of used alternators that have been tossed in a bin a whole bunch of times. They just clean up, slap a new pulley on it, and
send her out.
Yeah.
They'll never notice.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not the thing is that there's so many hands in the pot. There's no one to blame in that process. You got the dealer, the OE, the core supplier, and then the supplier of the core supplier. So who really, when that thing gets returned, it just goes right back into circulation. They don't destroy it. It just goes right back into circulation.
The mechanic must have dropped it.
Man, you reminded me this. I bought a steering gear one time, and I knew better. It came out of Miami. It was a used steering gear. And I got the thing and it said it was remanufactured, and I said, okay. But it was like off eBay or something. So it was like a used / remanufactured is how they listed it. And it looked pretty good. It was spray painted and they had the little caps in the ports for the, for the hydraulic lines. Like it looked like a decent reman. And I unboxed it and I realized that they didn't even clean it. Like they spray painted over the dirt. So I just kind of poked it. I just poked it and all the dirt flaked off. And I'm like, are you guys serious right now? Like,
no, the problem is you tell your customer it's a reman unit and then it's just a spray painted unit. I've actually I fired a customer not too long ago that was buying some racks for me because every time they sold it to a customer as reman, and they just spray bombed it. That's all they did. And then they went to return one. They said, "Hey, this one's defective." I said, "All right, send it back." It came back. It was blue. Why? First off, why is the steering rack blue? Second off, I can't even verify this is my rack anymore. But yeah, they like power washed it to the best. I mean, we clean everything too, but there's still some stuff embedded in it, and you can scratch the paint right off. And
What
yeah,
the fuck?
so I don't. So the thing is, like, I don't want to be any part of that process. I have plenty of processes and customers that I can sell parts to that I'm not involved in that. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I don't want to eat that. Parts?
Hey guys,
I
I
don't
gotta
want
cut
to
this
deal with
short.
parts.
I got an emergency I gotta take care of.
Take care, man.
Eric, nice to meet you. Ray,
Yeah,
Cody,
no,
DS, if he's
Holla.
not asleep.
Holla.
Rich, I'll see y'all later.
See ya.
Yeah, we'll probably get it cut off here too. I got some things I gotta wrap up myself. But stay tuned. I want to talk about some things we got coming up with some lighting. I have a couple of video ideas that I want to run past you guys. Got a lot of comments that we don't see. They go into a different folder. I think it'd be kind of funny to read some of the spammed comments or possibly bleeped comments. Make a video on it. Just
That'd be funny.
as entertainment.
That would be a good live stream too.
Yeah, that'd be kind of funny. But everybody, thanks for watching. Rain Man Ford Boss, Eric, thanks for coming by. Who knows where DS is? We have no idea. But CP's Garage. We'll see you to the next times. Everybody, see you.